When you go into a court, you have a fence and a gate. The people sit out here and the judge sits inside. The gate is called a floodgate. When you go through the canal, you have a floodgate.
Right.
So when you're sitting out here, you're in the law of the land. The judge has no control or no jurisdiction over the people sitting out here. But when you walk past that gate, now you're in hot water and someone's going to have to bail you out. When you walk into a courtroom and they call your name, you get up and you put your hand on the gate and you open the gate. The moment you put your hand on the gate, by international law, you of your own volition have opened yourself up to maritime admiralty law because you were on the law of the land. As long as you don't touch that gate and go through it. Now once you open the floodgate, there's a piece of wood on top of that gate and it's called the bar, and you're not licensed to pass the bar. So that means that you're dead. That's why the attorney has to speak for you, because you went into the deep water and you died. You drowned. You were not licensed to pass the bar, and the bar represents a sandbar in the ocean. Point being is that when you open that gate of your own volition, you are considered by law to be a dead man. That's why you cannot talk to the judge, because dead people don't talk to judges. So you'll need an attorney who is your mouthpiece. He speaks for you.
Right, that the birth certificate takes your given names, right, this lowercase name here, written in proper English as per the Chicago Style Manual. Then they incorporate you with the dead entity of the family name in the capitalized dog Latin. Bear with me for the incorporation part. So incorporation means the inclusion of something as part of a whole. Software facilities incorporation of active learning in the course, right? So the inclusion of something as part of a whole. Now you think, okay, so we want to have a look at the definition in the Black's Law Dictionary of person. A person is a human being, then it's separated, right? The second part is it also can be an entity, such as a corporation that is recognised by law. All right, so in the definition, human being is separated. It can be this one or this one. Hold the thought. In our Acts interpretation, Acts 1901, Section 2C refers to persons, right? We do the same thing as what we just saw in any act expressions denoting persons generally, persons party, include a body politic or corporate as well as an individual. Now, for the layman, which I am, you wouldn't understand what as well as means, but it's incorporating those two words together. Because if you said a steak as well as chips, you would expect two separate menu items to come on the same plate. In fact, they would be incorporated into one meal. Because as well as means along with, also, including, together with. It's a conjunction, right? So it's a conjunction where it adds two parts, right? Putting some emphasis on them, right? But it is combining them together in our definition of what a person is, which means they've chosen option 2 of the Black's Law Dictionary. No longer a human being, and a corporation, to go back to what I said, because we need to take the living man or woman there, we need to incorporate them with the fictitious corporate entity of the capitalized version of the last name. Because remember, it used to have been this name, the house of this name, not that name all together with that one. We are putting them together for legal purposes. What does it matter, you say? Well, that's how they get around this sort of stuff. So, Income Tax Assessment Act 1997, Section 4.1. Income tax is payable by each individual and company. Individual and company. Now, that would be to the layman again, an individual. Well, I'm an individual. We already talked about it up there that I'm defined as an individual, but in the definition of person, they have combined or incorporated an individual with the corporate. So basically down here, it's doing it again, but this time it uses the word and. And the use of and from English grammar today, and is a coordinating conjunction. So again, we see the conjunction. We use and to connect two words, phrases, clauses, prefix together. So and means the individual and the company together. Person means the individual and the company together. The definition means as well as the corporate and the individual together. Incorporation means the inclusion of something as part of a whole. and back to the original definition. If there were two separate things, they would be that one or that one. One possibility or two possibilities. Do you understand what they have done? They have used legalese to capture us from the birth certificate. We are the res, or we are the bar of gold that gets put into trust with the birth registry, and I'm guessing the birth certificate is a promissory note to pay the debt or to be used as a financial instrument against the security of the baby. And maybe, just maybe, when they started changing things from the translation of this one, and they started writing things that Peter opened his mouth and said, "Of truth I perceive that God has no respecter of persons." And in Romans 2:11, "For there is no respect of persons with God." And it goes on and on and on. Maybe they were trying to tell us something in that Bible. And look, at the end of the day, what does it really matter? If you don't know how to find your way back to taking your control of your security, which is the birth registration, and the receipt for that is your birth certificate, then it doesn't really matter. If you're happy to continue to pay the taxes and be responsible for everything that your straw man creates by using that fictitious entity to contract with the maritime system, then it doesn't really matter. But I'm just showing you that even a dum-dum like me, with the help of all of the people that I'm watching on TikTok, is slowly but surely working out how the smallest of details can make the biggest of difference in who pays for what when and if you get stuck going to court.
Touch the sound of silence, and in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share, and no one dared